Welcome, Grade 12 SYSC students, to today's Explainer. I am Professor A, and today we are diving into a rigorous academic deconstruction of macroeconomic aggregates. We're specifically tackling Question 3 of your public finance curriculum. And I am Professor B. But look, let's ditch the dry textbook ledger for just a second here. Because before we even touch the formulas, we really need to talk about the real-world tension hiding in plain sight.
Indeed, that is the fundamental question of this session. We are examining the severe disconnect between the consumer's everyday reality and the producer's pure economic ledger.
Exactly. When you hand over cash at the store, you naturally think you're paying the people who actually made the product. But the truth is, that price tag, it's kind of a financial illusion.
Section 1. The core split between theory and market reality.
To truly understand our economy, we must first establish the pure theoretical foundation. In the study of national income, national product at market prices is what we actually observe on the store shelf. It is the value of final goods and services calculated at prevailing market prices, which are intrinsically inclusive of indirect taxes paid by consumers.
Right, but what's really interesting is that the shelf price completely hides the underlying truth of what it actually took to make that product. The market price you see is entirely warped.
Which brings us to the pristine alternative, and that is factor cost. Now, factor cost represents the ultimate uncorrupted measure of production. It is strictly the sum total of all factor payments. We are talking about wages for labor, interest for capital, rent for land, and profits for entrepreneurship, all accruing to the normal residents of a country. No more, no less.
Part 2. The fiscal wedges, where messy reality intervenes. So Professor A loves pristine definitions, but out in the market, messy reality intervenes fast. And by messy reality, I mean government intervention. You see, the government uses what we call fiscal wedges. These are deliberate economic tools that step right between the producer making the good and the consumer buying it. The two big ones we need to focus on today are indirect taxes and government subsidies. They literally manipulate that final price tag.
Here's how the wedge actually works in practice. First, indirect taxes push market prices artificially higher. It's a tax you pay at the register, but it is definitely not a part of factor earnings. The producer doesn't get to keep a dime of it. And conversely, subsidies, which operate as cash grants given by the government directly to producers, pull those market prices artificially below the actual cost of production.
Moving on to Part 3, the mathematical bridge connecting the concepts.
So we have a theoretical tug-of-war happening here. But for your ISC exams, we must translate this dynamic into strict algebraic equations. To build this bridge, we define a critical subaggregate, and that is net indirect taxes. This is the exact mathematical difference calculated by simply subtracting subsidies from indirect taxes. It elegantly represents the net effect of all government price distortions in one clean number.
Let's walk through this mathematical bridge together, guys. To find the pure national product at factor cost, you start with the market price. Then, you subtract the indirect taxes, essentially stripping away that artificial markup, and you add back the subsidies to restore the missing production cost. Or, alternatively, just subtract net indirect taxes from the market price. Boom! You have just stripped away the fiscal wedges to reveal the pure factor cost.
Part 4. The Rice Subsidy Practical Masterclass.
I want to anchor this entire discussion with a concrete numerical breakdown straight from your classic SYISC textbook example, because numbers are where this really clicks into place. Imagine the agricultural sector. The raw resource cost, the pure factor cost, meaning the wages to the farmers, the rent for the land, the interest on the tractor loan to produce exactly 1 kilogram of rice, is 50 rupees.
But then, the government steps in. They want to ensure essential food is affordable for the masses, which makes sense. So they introduce a 5 rupee cash grant subsidy paid directly to the producers.
And here is the punchline. Because of that 5 rupee subsidy absorbing part of the production cost, the final retail market price you pay at the store drops to 45 rupees. This perfectly visualizes the downward pull of a subsidy in real time.
Section 5. The system paradox and structural imbalance.
While Professor B's rice numbers are wonderfully practical, they create a profound, high-level academic paradox that we absolutely must unpack. Look closely at this beautiful, counterintuitive reality.
The visual representing the cost to make the good, the factor cost, at 50 rupees, is literally taller than the visual representing the price it actually sells for, the market price, at 45 rupees.
Crucially, we must remember this underlying principle. Because of the subsidy, the national product valued at factor cost is structurally higher than the market price. Consider this a major light bulb moment for your exam prep. Subsidies structurally invert the normal, everyday logic of pricing.
Which leaves us with the ultimate philosophical question to ponder as we wrap up. When government interventions create this kind of structural paradox, which number tells the true story of our economy? The pure, uncorrupted cost of production, or the messy, manipulated price at the register? Reflect on that as you review your notes, grade 12. Thank you for joining us in this explainer.